Welcome, everyone, to today's discussion on driving change and shaping the future of Refsum. My name is Kristie DeMarco, and I'm the president and founder of Global DARE Foundation. I'm here today with Susan Kuranoff, vice president and co-founder. Our agenda today includes an overview of Global DARE Foundation's progress this year, including a deeper dive into several of our programs. Global DARE Foundation was established 5 years ago. DARE stands for Defeat Adult Refsum Everywhere. Our mission is to promote worldwide awareness and better quality of life for all those who are diagnosed with adult Refsum disease. Our goal is to support research, education initiatives, awareness campaigns, and advocacy. Together with our Medical and Scientific Advisor Board, driving research is at the center of what we do because we dare to believe in a cure for adult Refsum disease. I will now be providing a brief overview of the progress made this year at Global DARE Foundation. These key accomplishments are instrumental in advancing our mission. In the area of research and care, Diane Mitchell has joined us as our scientific director. Diane is collaborating with our researchers and clinicians to develop a robust network and define our research priorities. She's ensuring that the studies that we drive forward align with the needs of our community. This is important because we want to make sure to align what you need to be most impactful for us. We also approved funding of the first ever natural history study. This is a big step forward for us. These studies help us understand how Refsum disease changes over time, and that's exactly the kind of data we need to design future treatments and clinical trials. But to make this study meaningful, we'll need participation from as many people in our community as possible. This is one of the most direct ways that we can contribute in advancing science and improving care, not just for ourselves, but for everyone that's impacted by this disease. Your voice, your experience, your data is essential. When the time comes, I hope that you'll consider taking part in this important study. I know I will. Lastly, in this area, we're very proud of our Medical and Scientific Advisory Board for submitting the first ever clinical care guidelines for Refsum disease for publication. This will give doctors around the world a clear, trusted roadmap to care for someone with Refsum disease, ensuring that everyone gets consistent treatment. I'm super excited to have these guidelines published. Next, in the area of global awareness and community, we've been out there connecting directly with the Refsum community, both virtually and in person. We want to better understand the daily experience and what people need most. That community voice is what keeps our work grounded and relevant. This year, we have already hosted both scientific and community meetings. I was lucky enough to travel to Australia and meet our great community in both Melbourne and Sydney. I found these personal connections really invaluable. We shared our lived experiences and we discussed what was important for us from a research and care perspective. We just had fun getting to know each other. These events strengthen our community and help inform the priorities at Global DARE. I also just was engaged in a research planning meeting earlier this month at Kennedy Krieger. This was incredibly encouraging. Susan's going to talk a little bit about our testing program in a moment. And the team is also exploring ways where we can easily monitor photonic acid levels, potentially at home using a blood spot. These are really exciting areas. But what was even more exciting was the discussion on gene editing research and the potential use in Refsum disease. And then also, what were ways that we could actually, potentially through drug repurposing or other ways, find ways to break down photonic acid more readily, hopefully to drive lower levels and have improved outcomes. These things won't happen overnight, but real progress is being made. It was really encouraging to sit around the table with the experts earlier this month. We are making steps towards better treatments, and most importantly, it gives us hope that we're driving towards better therapies for us. In September, Susan and I and another member of our community are headed to Euretina in Paris, and we're going to have a dedicated booth, very much like what we did in 2024 at ARVO. Euretina is one of the largest retinal conferences in Europe and one of the most influential gatherings for retinal specialists worldwide. This opportunity will help us really raise awareness with the very doctors that are the first people who see individuals with Refsum disease. Being visible at these conferences, we're really helping to educate clinicians, build valuable partnerships, ultimately drive earlier diagnosis for the people within our community, which we know makes a direct impact in quality of life for the long term for people with Refsum disease. And our country ambassador program continues to grow as well. These local advocates are spreading the word in their own countries. They're also connecting with people locally. It's nice to have someone in your own country that you can talk to about your experiences, especially in a disease as ultra rare as Refsum disease. It makes you feel not so alone. And I'll talk a little later in the presentation about the accomplishments of some of our ambassadors. It's pretty exciting. Lastly, we're making big steps forward on sustainability and growth. With our CZI funding, we're becoming a stronger, more stable foundation for the future. We're starting to move from a primarily volunteer-led nonprofit to a more professionally staffed organization. This means we can take on bigger goals and we can make sure that we're here for the long term. We want to be here supporting you, not just for now, but into the future. And we recognize that this is just the beginning. Building an organization takes time and continued funding. We're going to be out there trying to raise more funding to be able to continue our journey to becoming more sustainable for the long term. This really will be able to allow us to deliver a real lasting impact for the Refsum community year after year. So that's it for the overview. Now I'll pass it over to Susan, where she's going to provide a more detailed update on our food testing program and to review our new Patient Collaborator Program. All right, over to you, Susan.
Great. Thanks very much, Kristie. Let's dive into one of the areas where we've made steady progress, which is our food testing program. As you all know, for individuals with Refsum disease, diet plays a critical role in managing our phytanic acid levels. Avoiding high phytanic acid foods can prevent serious health complications, but of course, accurate, reliable food testing is essential to make these choices confidently. So if you remember, back in 2022, we launched the traffic light system, which categorized foods based on their phytanic acid content. So green for safe, yellow for caution, and red for high-risk foods. That was a major step forward, making dietary management much clearer. Then at the end of 2023, we announced that we were temporarily pausing our food testing program until we could decide how to most effectively handle the different forms of phytal, such as free phytal and phytal fatty esters, which are thought to be mobilized in the body and contribute to circulating phytanic acid levels. So this resulted in the diet update in 2024, where we introduced the level 1 and level 2 guidance. Level 1 guidance provides the basic classification based on total phytanic acid content. Then level 2 goes deeper. It accounts for the phytal fatty esters, which are thought to be converted to phytanic acid in the body. So why is this important? Well, because some foods may appear safe at first glance, but when broken down further, they may release phytal in the body over time. That's why testing for both free phytal and phytal fatty esters is essential for more nuanced dietary recommendations. So the good news is we're now resuming our food testing program at the Kennedy Krieger Institute in the US, where we have strong scientific partners. That said, due to the technical complexity of testing for these individual components, phytanic acid, free phytal, and phytal fatty esters, the cost has increased. The good news, in addition, is that a major milestone has been achieved by Refsum Germany in securing a $20,000 grant specifically for food testing purposes. So a shout out to Kirsten Reichert, advocacy work, who as a result has now brought us this dedicated budget that will allow for us to test approximately 15 to 20 foods this year. So when the results are available, these will be integrated into our traffic light recommendations and will help ensure that we have the most reliable, up-to-date information when making our food choices. And lastly, a scientific manuscript is in development. This will document both our testing methodology and the results of the foods tested to date, which have been funded by DARE. This is going to help build credibility within the broader medical community and pave the way for wider acceptance and use of our diet guidelines. Then on to the next slide. I would like to talk about an exciting new opportunity, the role of the patient collaborator. So this is a new initiative designed to empower individuals of those living with or caring for somebody with Refsum disease by getting you involved directly in research, in clinical progress and advocacy by offering lived experienced insights. So there's several responsibilities of the patient collaborator, which I'd like to review briefly. Firstly, a patient collaborator will contribute to research and clinical development. Patient collaborators will provide critical insights into what life with Refsum is really like. Those insights can and should help shape research studies to ensure that the studies ask the right questions and measure outcomes that are important to us. A collaborator can also help identify real-world barriers to trial participation and support the design of natural history studies that track how disease progresses over time. Then moving on, a further responsibility is raising awareness and advocating for Refsum disease. An essential responsibility of the collaborator is using your personal story and experience to raise awareness. By sharing personal stories and highlighting the day-to-day challenges of living with Refsum disease, you help shine a light on unmet needs in our care and treatment. As a collaborator, you're expected to actively advocate for improved resources and therapeutic development, helping to ensure those that make decisions, such as researchers, pharmaceutical companies, and regulators, understand the real gaps in care and need for better treatment options for Refsum disease. Additionally, a collaborator will help support emerging therapies and clinical trials. So as potential therapies begin to emerge, your feedback will be essential. Impacted individuals are uniquely qualified to help determine whether a treatment is considered not just medically effective, but also that it's a manageable, tolerable, and worth pursuing treatment. So your involvement ensures that treatments are aligned with the real-life patient values and expectations. And lastly, a collaborator will engage in scientific and advocacy discussions. So Global DARE will offer support and training so that you can become confident in research terminology and research processes. Collaborators may be invited to join advisory boards or participate in research roundtables, where your voice will certainly help to steer future efforts. Moving on to the next slide, let's talk a little bit about the required qualifications. So what does it take to become a collaborator? First and foremost, a personal commitment in advancing research and raising awareness is required. You should be willing to share your story and speak on behalf of others with Refsum. Communication skills are key because you'll be interfacing with clinicians, researchers, and the wider Refsum community. So you may ask, what will be the benefits of being a collaborator? Well, in turn, collaborators will have the opportunity to shape the future of Refsum research and care. So you'll become recognized as a valuable member of both the patient and scientific communities. You'll gain access to educational opportunities and expand your own understanding of the research that impacts and affects your life. How to become a collaborator. So if you're interested in becoming a collaborator, please reach out after today's session and we'd love to discuss next steps with you. Diane Mitchell, our scientific director, will be providing more information about the program and available training during her upcoming webinar titled Advancing Science for Refsum Disease. So Kristie and I sincerely hope that you consider taking this exciting step, which is a chance to bridge the gap between research and the Refsum community and help us move forward towards better healthcare outcomes. And with that, Kristie, I'm handing back to you.
Thanks, Susan. That's really exciting. The food testing program was something that we knew would make a real difference with the community right when we got Global Dare started, and it's exciting to get it restarted now that we know a little bit more and have a good path forward on our dietary guidance. And the Patient Collaborator Program, I think, is just awesome. I think getting the patient voice right in on research and making sure that it's at the center of what we're doing, it always makes sure that the research is at the center of what patients need versus just doing research for research. I think that next up, I'm talking about our Refsum Without Borders campaign. So a pretty cool program we've got going on here. And this initiative is all about raising awareness and building community connections across the Refsum community. We know early diagnosis makes a difference, so we're living with an ultra rare disease. We want to make sure, we can connect with others with the disease, and we all know we become the experts. And so being able to connect with others that experience this disease is really important. And so I wanted to walk you through a couple of our accomplishments to date on this campaign. We've connected with people living with Refsum in 22 different countries. This makes sure that we're not just looking at one country, right? We're looking and driving and learning across diverse experiences and making sure we're inclusive worldwide. We have 2 centers of excellence currently, one in Boston, one in London, and now we're looking at plans for more. Susan and I are headed to Germany along with Kirsten Reichart this year and talking maybe about a center there. And we've talked about some other centers in some other countries. These centers are really important and because they become the experts on Refsum's disease. They'll be treating more and more people with the disease, and then they can act as hubs for other more remote locations where they might not have as much expertise. They can help us drive more research, they can educate our community and other physicians. So increasing the number of centers that we have really helps the community get better quality care faster. As mentioned earlier, we hosted a scientific meeting at Kennedy Krieger in Baltimore. This gave researchers and clinicians a chance to share ideas and explore what's next for research. Well, we plan on doing a lot more of these in the future and in different countries too. We know that we've got some, as we talked about earlier, some centers elsewhere and researchers in other countries. And so we plan on being able to drive more of these discussions and engage, people who aren't currently involved in Refsum research and get them engaged. The more people we can have getting involved in Refsum, the better. As you heard from Susan, our German ambassador, Kirsten Reichart, she won a $20,000 grant for food testing. This is a really practical win. It really helps to inform our dietary guidance. We know that food impacts us on a daily basis, and it's important that we know we can trust what we eat on a daily basis. So definitely a great shout out to Kirsten on her great win there. In Australia, Ambassador Sharon Burston, is collaborating with the Centre of Eye Research in Australia to raise awareness with ophthalmologists. We know they're one of the first people who see people with Refsum's disease. And so she's helped them publish several articles, and emphasizing the importance of genetic testing and early diagnosis. Shout out to Sharon for her efforts to raise awareness in Australia. Earlier this year, I had focused conversations with retinal specialists and ophthalmologists in Southeast Asia and Australia in my travels abroad. These relationships are so important to enable early diagnosis. I was incredibly excited to see how open these specialists were to exploring ways to raise awareness in their countries. Even after those initial discussions, I've had follow-up meetings with those doctors with larger retinal groups to actually spread awareness across many different physicians within those countries. So very exciting. And I plan to continue that work this fall. I'm headed to Europe and to Japan and looking to continue those conversations with ophthalmologists and blindness organizations. And finally, we're actively gathering feedback from the community as I travel around or have virtual conversations, Susan as well. We're trying to understand the top priorities of the community. We want to stay laser focused on what people with Refsum disease actually need. We don't want to just think we know what you need. We want to actually have you provide us data and feedback on what's important to you so that we can make sure that everything that we're doing ties back to what the community needs. And so the next page here, I wanted to give you a little preview into what I've been hearing, what Susan's been hearing about what the community needs. This slide gives you an idea of some of the top 5 things that we've heard across the Refsum community to help drive our future direction. So first, people asked us to restart the food testing program. So that's what we're doing. We're starting the food testing program, as you heard from Susan. We're getting that back up and running. And we're also looking at research into the conversion of phytol fatty esters into phthalic acid. We know that's important. Right now, we have phytol fatty esters built into the guidance into level 2, but we need more understanding of that conversion and making sure that it's incorporated into our guidance. Secondly, people told us that they need an easier access to accurate phthalic acid testing. It's not always easy, depending on the country that you're in, where you're located, to actually get your phthalic acid done on a regular basis. And then there's also a level of concern on accuracy. So we want to spend some time there. You heard me earlier talk about the researchers thinking about potential blood spots that you could do at home. Well, that would be great if we could enable something like that, or even being able to make sure that maybe people could take their tests locally and be able to send them into a larger clinic versus having to go 3-4 hours to get their tests done, and being able to maybe get those tests done in a more timely fashion. Better access means people can track their levels and adjust their diet as needed. The third area that we've heard about is apheresis. This is a specialized procedure that helps quickly remove phthalic acid from the blood. The application of apheresis is inconsistent, across countries and clinics. So we really need more data to understand when apheresis should be used in Refsum disease. The natural history study will go a long way to helping us understand the current state, and we need a little bit more research as well. We also heard that we need more precise advice on exercise and weight loss. People want to be able to lose weight. If they've gained weight and want to lose it, they want to be able to know that they can lose weight safely. Right now, we have just general guidance on how to exercise and lose weight safely, but we would like it a little bit more precise so that we can make sure that we're not too worried about releasing too much phthalic acid and worsening symptoms. Lastly, people want to have better therapies to reduce phthalic acid levels. We know that higher levels means faster loss of vision and hearing and more symptoms. So how do we keep levels low? Is there potential drug repurposing avenues that we could pursue? And we are talking about that with the researchers, as I mentioned earlier. And is there a way that we can have methods to reduce our levels to lessen symptoms and slow vision and hearing loss? We know that people have a hard time keeping their levels low with good compliance with the diet. Susan and I both know how frustrating that is at times to not be able to know how to keep levels low. We're taking all of these insights into consideration as we build our research priorities. We know that people living with Refsum disease are the experts in their own experience. So our job is to listen, learn, turn that feedback into action. We welcome hearing from the community on these priorities. So please reach out to us and talk to us if we haven't talked to you already about what your priorities are. We'd love to have that conversation and hear more from you. We probably will do some surveys in the future as well, but we do like those personal connections and being able to have those deeper conversations with you. So feel free to reach out to us anytime. All right, so in closing, I'd like to thank you for joining us today and taking the time to learn more about the progress we're making together as a community. We know that many have questions, probably will have questions after watching this presentation. Since it's pre-recorded, we encourage you to reach out to us directly with your questions, feedback, or ideas. You can email us at any time at info@globaldare.org. Many of you might be able to connect us through Facebook or through our Google groups, so feel free to do that as well. Together, we're creating a future where Refsum is recognized, understood, treated earlier, and more effectively. We really appreciate all of you being together with us on this journey. Thank you again, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.